This is Professor R.M. Mahendrakar. Now look at this image. If there was no sunlight, how the world would have appeared before us? It would be in the form of the different shades of white and gray. But the same when there is sufficient light. You see how beautiful the nature looks. You can observe so many different colors. Hence, in this today's class, we'll be studying about the climatic factor, that is light. Light is the most essential abiotic factor. It is the main source of life to us. It is because of light that we have life on this planet Earth. It is because of the sunlight the plants can prepare the food by a process called as photosynthesis. And in photosynthesis, the solar energy is converted into biological energy, and this biological energy is then stored in the plants. And when the herbivores eat these plants, this biological energy from the plants is transferred into the herbivores, and when the other carnivores eat it, the energy is transformed from one trophic level to another trophic level. Hence, the sunlight is one of the most important factor which is responsible for the existence of life on the planet Earth. Also, sunlight plays a very important role in the water cycle. Now, the water that falls on the earth, it gets evaporated because of the sunlight. Sunlight means it is the radiant energy. The water evaporates, gets condensed in the atmosphere, and again it falls down as rain. So this water cycle also is one of the important event that occurs due to the solar energy, that is sunlight. Hence, let us learn about light in detail and how light is one of the most important abiotic factor that influences life on planet Earth. Now first let us see the sources of light. The main source of light are the sunlight, the moonlight, the lightnings, the light emitted from the glowworms, and also the light emitted by the deep sea organisms through bioluminescence. So all these are the natural sources of light. There are artificial sources of light also, like the lamp that we light or the different types of CFL bulbs, the LED bulbs that we use at home. These are also sources of light, but these are all artificial sources of light. The radiant energy coming from the sun is in the form of the electromagnetic wave. This electromagnetic wave consists of an electric field and the magnetic field, which are running at right angles to each other. So here you can see the red wavelength, that is the electric field, and the blue is the magnetic field. So the sunlight that is falling on planet Earth is nothing but it consists of electromagnetic wave of wide range in wavelength. A beam of light is pictured as a shower of particles called as photons, and each photon contains a certain amount of energy called as quantum. Earth is a very small object in the solar system, and only 1/50th 1/50th millionth of the total solar radiation reaches the Earth. Now, this solar radiation that reaches the Earth, only a part of it is visible to us, and that we call it as the visible spectrum. The remaining part of the light, which is invisible to our naked eye, that we call it as the invisible spectrum. This, the whole solar light, if you see, that is starting from 0 to 3000 millimicron, only this part of light, that is from 400 to 700 millimicron wavelength of light, only that is visible to us. This visible part of solar radiation stretches from violet light with a wavelength of 390 millimicron to red light at the other end having a wavelength of 760 millimicron, with blue, green, yellow and orange light between the two ends. The high frequency shortwave radiations below 390 millimicrons are ultraviolet rays, and low frequency long wavelength radiations from 760 millimicron upwards is infrared or thermal radiation. Both these are invisible to human eye. The energy contained in the visible part of the solar system is of utmost importance to the living organisms on planet Earth. The manufacture of food by the green plants through the process of photosynthesis depends upon this visible spectrum of light. All light comes from the sun. The total amount of light that falls upon the earth varies according to the season, latitude, altitude, and conditions of the atmosphere. On all places at the equator, light falls for 12 hours a day throughout the year. Hence, the equators are always very warm, they get sufficient light and hence you will see that maximum growth of vegetation is seen in this equatorial belt. The days become progressively longer during summer as you move away from the equator because the earth is slightly tilted. Light intensity also, hence at higher altitude, the light intensity is more compared to the light intensity at the sea level. Humidity tends to reduce light intensity. It is greatly reduced by heavy clouds and fogs. A layer of water greatly reduces light intensity. Now here you see, this is the earth at winter solstice. Now in winter solstice, you can see the sun rays are falling directly at the equator. Hence, in equatorial region, we don't see much season. But as you go towards the poles, the sun rays that are falling are at an angle. And in winter solstice, the North Pole is experiencing darkness. Hence, in the northern hemisphere, in winter solstice, it is winter season. And in the southern hemisphere of the earth, in the winter solstice, it is summer here, and the South Pole experiences sunlight all the 24 hours a day. Hence, in the poles, you will see that there are 6 months a day and 6 months a night. And in the remaining region, that is in the temperate region, in the winter season, the days are very short and the nights are very long. And in summer season, the nights are very long and sorry, in the summer season, the days are very long and the nights are very short. It is all because of the. Now, if you see the net solar radiation trapped by the Earth, the maximum trapping of the solar radiation is in the equatorial region. And as you move towards the pole, the net radiation absorbed is decreasing. Hence, this is also another reason why we see maximum vegetation growth in the equatorial region and the tropical region. And as you go towards the temperate region and the poles, you'll see the vegetation goes on decreasing. Now, the light intensity also varies with the depth of water. In water medium, the intensity of light is reduced, and this decreases progressively with the increase of the water depth. When a light reaches on the surface of water, the major portion of the rays of shorter wavelength, that is violet, indigo, blue and green, are reflected and other lights are partly absorbed. This is why bodies of water appears bluish green in color. The rays of longer wavelength of light are absorbed near the surface, and in general, light rays of shorter wavelength penetrate deepest. Thus, infra infrared rays are absorbed in the upper layer of the water surface. Red and orange rays are completely absorbed up to the depth of 20 meters. Yellow rays may penetrate up to 50 meters, and green and blue rays penetrate up to 80 to 100 meters deep. Violet and ultraviolet rays penetrate up to 80 to 100 meters deep. Depending upon the penetration of the light, the ocean is divided into three zones. The region of the ocean which receives the maximum sunlight, we call it as the euphotic zone. The region of the ocean which receives the twilight, that we call it as dysphotic zone. And the deeper region of the ocean where the light does not penetrate at all, and even in the daytime it appears to be a midnight like conditions, such deep part of the oceans, we call it as aphotic zone. The quality of light is also modified by clouds and fogs. Now when the sky is clear, the light intensity is maximum. In the next photograph you'll see that when there is cloudy, the light intensity is greatly reduced. And in fog-like conditions also, you'll see that the light rays are reduced, and even in the afternoons, if it is a foggy condition, you will see as if it is a haze around everything. You cannot even see some few meters. You might have also heard in the news that some international flights are cancelled due to thick fog because of poor visibility. So that is why fog reduces the light intensity. Even the depth of water also reduces the intensity of light. This I've already told you earlier, that when light reaches on the surface of the water, major proportion of the rays of shorter wavelength, that is violet, indigo, blue and green, are reflected and other lights are partly absorbed. That is why bodies of water appear bluish green in color. Now, effect of quality of light. Red rays induce great development of tissues and cause the cells to elongate very much. Blue-violet rays inhibit growth and keep the cells small. Ultraviolet rays have injurious effect upon cells. It is therefore fortunate that most of the ultraviolet radiation is absorbed by the ozone layer in the upper part of the atmosphere. This you have already learned in the topic atmosphere. That's why we should be very thankful to ozone layer. That is, it is protecting the earth from these harmful ultraviolet radiations. For plants, the red light and blue lights are very effective because in photosynthesis we have seen that maximum rate of photosynthesis seen in the red spectrum and the blue spectrum of light. In alpine regions, the intensity of ultraviolet radiation is much higher than at sea level and is responsible for the development of flavones and anthocyanin in alpine plants. That is why you will see the vegetation in the alpine plants show so many attractive colors in their leaves because of those anthocyanin and flavin pigments. Now we shall see importance of light to plants. Light affects many physiological activities of the plant, and they are as follows. First, photosynthesis. Of the total solar energy reaching the Earth, only 2% is used in photosynthesis. All wavelengths of light are not utilized by the plant. As I've told you earlier, the maximum photosynthesis is in the blue spectrum and in the red spectrum. In the green light, the rate of photosynthesis is minimum because the green light is reflected back by the chlorophyll pigment. Light plays an important role in the development of plastids and pigments. That is why you see whenever any plant is growing under a rock, you will see that it is pale yellowish in color because for the synthesis of chlorophyll, sunlight is essential. We call such plants which are pale yellow in color growing in dark conditions as etiolated plants. Very high intensity of light influences formation of anthocyanin pigments. That's why in the previous slide I have told you in alpine regions, okay, that is as you go higher, the intensity of light increases. So in alpine regions, because of the high intensity of light, anthocyanin pigments are created. So that's why the vegetation you will see it will be of different colors there. Now we shall study about photosynthetically active radiation. Now what is photosynthetically active radiation? It is the solar radiation that is photosynthetically active. In other words, it is the radiation of light that is available for the plants for photosynthesis to take place. The wavelengths of light photosynthetically active are generally in the range of 400 to 700 nanometers. Now here you see in this violet, blue, yellow, orange and red. Now these are the radiations of light or the wavelengths of light where photosynthesis can take place. In the blue spectrum and in the red spectrum it is maximum. The next peak is in the light blue region and in the yellow and orange it is moderate. And in the green spectrum of light, the rate of photosynthesis is minimum. So that's why less photosynthetically active radiation is the green light. Whereas blue and red, these are the photosynthetically active radiations of light. And all other wavelengths of light are moderately photosynthetically active radiations. Photosynthetically active radiation is absolutely essential for a plant to survive, and plant grows faster in conditions of higher PAR, that is photosynthetically active radiation. Plants germinate, grow, bloom and produce fruits during the summer months when PAR is at its highest. But as the levels of PAR begins to drop towards the autumn, plants slow their growth and eventually undergo dormant period. However, too high or too low photosynthetically active radiation intensity may become a stress factor, causing photoinhibition and disturbing the functioning of the photosynthetic apparatus. This was told by Howard and Duraco. During the daytime, PAR is constantly changing and the plants try to keep a balance between converting radiation energy and protecting the photosynthetic apparatus against photoinhibition and repairing possible damage. Now the next effect of light on plants is respiration. There is no direct effect of light on the rate of respiration in plants. However, indirect effect is much more important because light influences synthesis of substrate by photosynthesis, and as the substrate concentration increases, the rate of photosynthesis also increases. So that is why in the daytime, soon after photosynthesis, the rate of respiration increases in plants. Increase in substrate concentration, as I've told you, increases the rate of respiration. Light also influences stomatal movement, which helps in efficient exchange of gases. At very high intensity of light, respiration decreases because high intensity of light changes the viscosity of the protoplasm and photooxidation of enzymes take place. Now, effect of light on growth and flowering. Many plants are affected in a significant way by the length of the daily period of illumination. Plants that grow in direct sunlight are called heliophytes, and the plants that grow in shade are called as skyophytes. In evergreen woody plants, the cessation of growth and subsequent hardening occurs in response to length of day. Among plants growing within range of street lamps, some winter killing takes place. Now, this is a slide showing you the plants growing in full sunlight. So they are called as heliophytes. Now, this is a slide showing you the plants growing in shade. So such plants are called, yes. Now, photoperiodism. Now, this is a phenomenon in which the light duration affects the flowering pattern in the plants. So, this effect of light on the flowering pattern in the plants is called photoperiodism. It explains why many plants in the tropics, where the light period is almost constantly 12 hours, flower throughout the year. And likewise, why few plants in temperate altitude, only few plants in temperate altitude have these characteristics. They rarely flower when grown further south. Species requiring high temperature and long days to mature are definitely limited in the northern region. Now let us do the classification of plants based on photoperiodism. The plant which requires almost a minimum of day length less than 12 hours for flowering, these plants we call them as the short day plants. The plants who require a day length period of more than 12 hours for flowering, we call such plants as long day plants. And the plants which are not affected by either the short day conditions or long day conditions and they flower throughout the year, such plants are called day neutral plants or natural day plants. Recently, it has been shown that photoperiodic stimulus for flowering is also controlled by thermal points called ASI constant, which is specific for a particular species. SC constant is equal to total duration of light in hours plus the total mean temperature in degree Celsius. Chinoy has confirmed this constant and he called it photothermal quantum requirement of a species. Light also plays an important role in the movement of plants. Light affects the movement of plants. The stem, the roots, and the leaves show different responses to light. The effect of light on plant movement is called heliotropic effect. The stem elongates towards the surface of light, positively phototropic, and the roots are negatively phototropic because they move away from the light. Leaves grow transversely to the path of light in order to receive maximum sunlight. So that is why we'll see that different phyllotaxy is seen in the leaves so that they can trap the maximum solar energy that is falling on them. Now this is an image where you can see the shoot is moving towards the window where the maximum intensity of light is there. So this is a case of positive phototropism. Light also plays an important role in germination of seed. The seeds, when moist, are very sensitive to light. In some cases, the germination of seed is retarded in light. The quantity of light needed for stimulus of embryo varies in different species. In most cases, red light promotes germination and far red light inhibits germination. Investigations regarding the mechanism of seed germination in light has revealed that a pigment, phytochrome, is involved in this process. The pigment occurs in two reversible forms, PR and PRF, which develop under the red and far red light. The germination depends upon the balance between the two forms. Now the inactive PR is activated when the wavelength of light is around 660 nanometer. And this active PRF then induces germination. But when the light intensity increases, that is the wavelength of light, it is more than 660, that is say around 730. Then the active PRF is converted back into inactive PRF, which inhibits germination. Seeds of certain plants require blue light for germination. Germination of typha seeds is promoted in yellow light. Yellow light counters the inhibitory effect of blue light. Thus, light is an important factor in distribution of plants. Light plays an important role in the process of photosynthesis. Light plays an important role in respiration in plants. Light plays an important role in germination of seeds. Light plays an important role in inducing plant movements. So these are the different effects of light on. So in today's class we have studied what is light, sources of light, the intensity of light, how the light intensity is reduced and increased by natural phenomena. We have also seen importance of light to the plants. So thank you And in the next class, we'll be seeing about the next adaptive factor, that is the water. So take care, be safe, everybody.